Hola, episode 81, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Big old snowman.
Snowman.
Uno snowman.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm with you
Circles.
on that. Yep.
Number one.
Sweet.
It's a beautiful shirt you have on.
Oh, yeah.
I just got to
Shout out
call it
to
out.
Aurelius.
Yeah.
All knowledge.
Show it to that camera there. Let them know. Yeah. Audio listeners, it's just all knowledge journey.
Yeah, he makes cool shirts, really nice skis, and I think one of them is featured fairly prominently recently.
Yes, at the
IBJJF
Grand Prix.
Right, very cool.
He had, if some people watched, there was Tynan Dalpra against Jan Pickapow.
Yep.
And Jan was wearing an all knowledge gi, which was pretty dope.
And they're good gis, man. I like them.
Yeah, good quality, and they're. They actually, he's been talking to IBJJF, and they are 2024 legal.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah, that's kind of a nice thing, is because there's some new regulations for that we talked about previously.
Oh yeah.
And he made sure with his the manufacturer, and he reached out to IBJJF, and it looks like his gis are okay.
I'll tell you, it's supporting a good guy, really ethical person, really good friend of the.
Yeah, if you can't afford Origin, it's another good option to go with. That someone that's local to us, and a good friend as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And they got cool T-shirts if you like lifting or
kettlebells,
stoic lifestyle. Yeah. Just Google All Knowledge Journey clothing.
We're not even sponsored.
I know, we're not even sponsored.
We're sponsoring him.
I just happen to know the guy since third grade. So.
Yeah, no, he's great. I'm happy to do so.
Speaking about the IBJJF Grand Prix, did you watch it?
Honestly, I just watched the absolute finals. With
the
big match with Victor Hugo and
two giants.
Marigali.
What do you think about that final? We'll start at the top.
So that was great. Man, I tell you, and it was a beautiful sweep by Marigali too. But it's tough. Victor Hugo's so tough, and he's so. I mean, they always say this about him, how big he is, but how he moves.
Yeah. A guy that's 6'5", 250, 60 maybe?
He is unbelievable. As for his guard, I mean, he has a really nice De La Riva game.
Knee bars, inverts well.
Yeah, totally, man.
So that sweep that you're talking about,
there's
a Russian blue belt in our gym that's been really working that, and at the Portland Open, he hit it a few times.
Didn't he hit that at last rev too?
He did.
Yeah.
He did. He's been really working that, and he was texting me because he was there live.
Yeah.
And he was texting me about how he taught Marigali.
Whatever.
In the back room.
So in other words, did he go over to New Wave and to Danaher and say, "Hey, man, let me show you your guy something"?
Even crazier. He has a little. I think it was a picture or a video he sent me. Him and Boots that were at the warm-up mats at Master Worlds, and Danaher and Marigali were in the not the bullpen, but the warm-up mats, and they were getting like a sweat in. And supposedly Nikita walked over in that moment and taught him that sweep maybe an hour before.
Yeah.
And he hit it on Victor Hugo.
That's complete nonsense.
It sounds a little fabricated.
It sounds very fabricated to me.
But as we know,
I think Danaher would just stare at him and turn him to stone.
Yeah.
If Nikita approached.
And there is something about fake news in Russians.
Yeah.
I will speak no further about that.
There's a precedent for it. I'd still am a little chapped by that.
Yeah. So
no, but and by the way, Nikita tried it on me. He didn't do it as well as
didn't work out.
It didn't work out well for him. He got smashed.
Yeah, it's those weak hips of his.
Yeah.
So the sweep that we're talking about, if you guys can go back and watch it, it's phenomenal. It's
beautiful.
Especially if you like to play lasso.
Yep.
What he does is he has a lasso, and he throws the foot instead of hooking behind the lat, let's say, or into the bicep like a shallow lasso. He takes the opportunity as soon as Victor brings his knees up from going from passing on his knees to bringing a leg or standing. He flicks that lasso foot all the way under his hips.
Yep.
So essentially cupping usually the far side butt cheek of his opponent. and while keeping the lasso grip, and then he will then plant his outside foot, the free foot, to the mat and have a ton of strength there in essentially like a bridging motion.
That's right.
And it's kind of like a sumigashi, wouldn't you say? Like
Yeah,
that
a
kind of
bit.
mechanism.
Same mechanism, yeah.
And the amount of force he's able to generate with that foot on the floor is pretty impressive. And then he's kind of kicking with that lasso that's in between the legs over the right shoulder. And because he's holding the lasso grip still, there's no post.
Well, and exactly, but the timing still has to be nice too, because in that he hit it perfectly.
As he went for it earlier.
He did, but he hit it right at the transition between
When he came
as he was
up.
coming up.
Because that was
And
a
that
big
was it
thing
right there.
Yes, was Marigali went for it earlier in the match because this is kind of one of his staple sweeps.
Yep.
So being silly about Nikita showing him, but he's been doing this for a long time. And one of the best defenses is as soon as you feel that foot coming in between your legs, go to your knees.
That's right.
Bear down, be heavy, go to your knees.
And that's what happened when Nikita tried it, just to
Oh, that's what you
illustrate.
did.
Well, I pass on my knees anyway, right? And so I came down as soon as that foot came deep. It's exactly what I did.
So you just basically went to your knees, and did you kind of sit your butt back
I
a little bit?
set back, almost like it's not really headquarters, but that kind of kind of sitting back.
Your hips
heavy.
are right above your heels,
Yeah.
and your posture's up a bit, so
Yeah.
he's your head's not getting over his.
That's exactly
that's
right.
a big piece, right?
That's exactly right.
And that's basically what Victor did. And his corner was telling them every time his foot goes in between, drop the leg down. But as you just said, the timing was so butter smooth.
Yeah.
As soon as he came back, because Victor likes to pass on his feet,
That's right.
as soon as he came up, Nicholas was so quick about pummeling that foot in and just
He went the same
Flicked.
time that foot went in. He just went
Bridged
And
and
it was
bam.
just like, and it was so you could see how quick it was. Too.
very, very cool.
And it ended up basically winning 2-0. So
Yeah, with that score. That was the finals, and then both guys on the lead up to get there, they had to go through just absolute savages.
Oh my gosh.
Like
Yeah.
Francisco Lowe, which actually landed a very nice foot sweep on Marigali. And then Marigali returned the favor with a mother's milk tap.
Yes, he did.
Which is, can we just talk about how crazy it is that these guys like Marigali are smother tapping world-class elite level guys?
I know.
I don't understand. It doesn't compute. It's like counting to infinity. It doesn't work in my
Yeah.
head. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like the amount of technique and pressure
Yeah.
that he must be able, like some of these top guys are doing, must be insane.
Well, if you looked at several years ago when, Gordon Ryan was known for a long time as a leg locker, right? And there was and I'm not saying that's all, obviously that's not all he was, but that's a lot of what we saw, right? And then there's a transition period a couple years ago where he started playing mount a lot and started playing that game where he'd scoop under, get the double underhooks.
Right.
And I think, I'm just saying, as Marigali has gone over to New Wave, and kind of getting whatever juice that is.
Well, he has said that the biggest thing that Danaher has helped with his game is his top pressure.
That's right.
His pressure passing.
Yep.
And those two things alone are the things that he's instilled, and then a lot of stand-up stuff.
Yeah.
Those are the things that, like, he was obviously world-class.
Oh, for
already.
sure. Yeah.
But the holes in his game or the things that he could do better were those. And obviously it's paid dividends because he's just crushing people.
Well,
with
it just
those.
you can imagine being a black belt, you've been under some tough mount pressure, but you can only surmise, and you're used to kind of being comfortable, trying to survive these positions, right? And get some, breathing and all that. You can only imagine what that must be like, though.
Do you
these are
want to
top.
feel it
Yeah, I do.
a little bit? Just
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
something in you that's like,
I want to just to because it's got to be horrific.
yeah, I want to be able to like know how impressive it is.
Well, and now I'm gonna get on a deep dive. I'm like, I got to figure it.
Yeah.
I got to figure it out.
I don't think they've come out with
I know.
with anything, have they?
So Danaher, I'm waiting on it to drop. I'm going to see what he does.
Because you feel like he's going to come out something.
Because he has that old man jiu-jitsu series right now, and the last series with the gi he had is the bottom game. So I'm waiting to see if he puts a little.
I thought
he's big on when he talks about connection and all that. I'm wondering if that's going to be part of the top game one.
I thought I saw something on Instagram that Big Dan Monasau is going to put one out on smothering chokes and stuff. Smother taps.
I don't know, man. If I was 275 pounds, I could freaking just lay on someone anyway.
Yeah,
I know I'm not taking anything away from him, but I want to do it as a 180-pound dude.
Yeah. Gosh, that's impressive.
Anyway, cool. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, and then Marigali, so that was his first round. He beat Francisco Lowe with a smother tap, and then he went on to, in my opinion, was going to be, I didn't know how it was going to go, honestly, because the last guy to pass Marigali's guard is Gutenberg Pereira, and that's who he had in the second round, and he destroyed him. Marigali just went right through him.
Oh, yeah, it was, but so let me just back up and have a complaint.
Okay.
Okay. To this point, talking about finding matches. Flow grappling, WTF. Can I just watch a replay, please, without having to search? I mean, I actually had to go into the search thing to find it, to find even that,
And the searching mechanism, the indexing that it does is absolute dog poo-poo.
What? I mean.
It's horrible.
I hate complaining, but gee.
Yeah.
I was sitting there. I'm like, hey, Carrie, we got to watch this. It'd been nice to have Grand Prix a replay. Sweet. Because then I could kind of search what I wanted. I was able to find the isolated match with Marigali.
And this isn't just an old person thing. I'm telling you.
So you feel it too.
And everybody I've ever talked to, we have a teammate that actually was in line to get hired by Flow. And specifically, they were
fix it
to be the UI.
Oh my gosh,
project manager.
That'd been amazing.
And to
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was going to happen. It was done, and then they lost ADCC. Well, at least for a moment, and things changed, and he ended up not going on board. But he would have. I remember he was picking my brain because I was bitching about it constantly. And he's like, but what? Like, tell me exactly what your issue is.
Yeah.
Because he already had a like notes essentially of the things that he's going to address. I don't know if that position ever actually got filled.
Man,
it doesn't seem like, because I haven't seen any
to
improvement.
Me, taking a little bit of time and money to invest in that would be huge.
Absolutely.
Because it is not user friendly
at all. Mobile, the TV app's even worse. Like
I almost went old dude.
Is that how you were doing it? Was on the TV?
Yeah.
Yeah,
on the TV.
Horrific.
So I almost went old man. I'm like, screw this. Mama and Carrie goes, look, settle down. Settle down. Let's go try to search something, Just like,
I can't even read the buttons.
No, I have that little Apple remote too. I was just going tick, 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 click, tick, 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 click. So anyway, sorry about the digression, but no, it was go ahead. You were
you can digest all you want. So so he then goes against Gutenberg Pereira and just mollywops him. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I was like, Marigali is literally on a different level right now. And then after watching him, because in my opinion, at the very top, basically a heavyweight and up, the big boys, if not, pound for pound, if you will. I think there's Marigali, Victor Hugo, Eric Muniz, and Kaynan Duarte.
Absolutely, yep.
I think those are probably the top guys. They're kind of above everyone else.
Yep.
And then Marigali obviously just tapped Kaynan Duarte like 2 weeks ago, which is impressive. It was Nogi, but still even more impressive, honestly. And was that a smother tap?
I didn't watch it, but
did I just spoil that for you?
No, it's okay. I definitely want to go back and look if I had a better interface to search.
Incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Taps Kaynan Duarte in Nogi. First time they ever competed.
That's amazing.
Yeah. He beat Eric Muniz last time they went. And then Victor Hugo, they've gone back and forth. There's that controversial thing where Victor got the world championship because Marigali got DQ'd because he flipped off Victor Hugo's coaches. So it was kind of a weird thing there. And then, so it's just like one of these things. And then, like I said, the last time that Marigali got his guard pass was by Gutenberg Pereira, and I think it was BJJ Stars, if I remember right. So, amazing. Victor Hugo on the other side. This is the lead up. Marigali intentionally did not do Worlds this year.
Yep.
And Victor Hugo, I believe, double golded in absolute and super heavyweight or ultra, whatever he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want to fight whoever wins, whether that's Hugo or whatever. And Hugo won. So, and then they've been jawing at each other on the internet, and it's just like all the fafoka.
Yep.
And then, so Victor Hugo starts tapping his guys that he's going against first round, second round. And you're like, holy smokes, this is going to be like two titans, you know? And it's like this hard thing because like I am a Marigali fan, but then I have like a kind of a place for Victor Hugo. I like his mentality.
Totally.
Aurelius is a training partner of his.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like this thing where I'm like conflicted. I just want a good match.
That's my daughter's Six Blades.
Six Blades affiliate there.
So
there's like this thing where you're kind of like
yep.
Particular to them.
Plus, he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, and he just seems like a good dude. And what Aurelius says is he's like literally a gentle giant, like just a super nice guy.
Yeah, he seems that way.
So
I was with you on that. Yeah, I wasn't. I was. It was very entertaining.
But we like Marigali's jiu-jitsu.
Absolutely.
So, and he's a pretty guy. So,
you know what's interesting? You brought up Masters. I did catch a couple little highlights on there. One, a lot of people might not really care about, but I did like to see DJ
Demetrius Johnson
do brown belt and win first ever gi competition.
Were you able to watch some of those?
Yeah, I watched all of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. To a local guy, Demetrius Johnson, trains with one of our old training partners, Jan. McCain.
At Grapple Club.
Yep, in Sumner, and that was really cool. And then on the podium,
he got a second stripe. I got to say, it's a little stingy.
Hilarious.
It was funny.
Typically, people get their black belt.
I haven't seen him get striped on an academy. That was on the podium. That was great.
Ultimate troll. Like, it was just hilarious. I hope he kind of snapped
and
it
probably
too.
Arguably one of the pound for pound best fighters on the planet.
Easily.
Too, you know,
I mean, literally.
DJ. It's just hilarious. Give him a stripe.
Potentially the greatest mixed martial artist ever.
I think so. Yeah.
From a technical perspective.
Oh my gosh. The guy is.
It's hilarious.
I thought that was great.
And then it was also funny to think about like the insurance salesman that shows up for the first round of the Master Worlds, and he's looking across to a Hall of Fame UFC guy and one champion. And you're like, okay.
Whoops. Yeah.
At the same time, it's a cool thing. Like,
it's awesome.
It's such a unique sport that we can compete against someone like that.
Well, and also what's cool is if you listen to him being interviewed, he was, all about the gi right now. And so it's, another challenge for him. And just guys like that are just always looking for another challenge.
And, I saw his second round match was against the number one ranked guy. And that was a telling match because the guy was able to actually do pretty well, get underneath him, off balance him. It came really close to sweeping him, just that scramble
his
ability.
Hips are ridiculous. So.
And when he won that match, that was one that I was like, because if you're number one ranked brown belt, I think it was Master One.
Yep.
That the skill level of that guy is going to be extremely high, and he's going to have a lot of good jiu-jitsu. And like, what I mean by that is like his gi gripping structures are going to be very high level. And how is DJ going to be able to handle that?
Sure.
Because that was the thing that like Andrew and I were talking about constantly is how's he going to handle someone that really knows how to manipulate the gi?
Well, yeah.
And he did well.
He did.
He did well.
That's what was so amazing to me. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, that might have been the only one he didn't submit, I think. I can't remember. But
it was pretty cool. He got a really nice armbar, too.
Really nice forehead armbar, I think
beautiful.
It was. So
anyway, that was cool. I also, the only other thing I thought that I did watch was Josh Hinger's just went and murked people.
Talk about making me not want to do it next year.
Yeah, dude.
He body triangled the last three guys.
Yeah.
Including the finals.
Yeah.
And I don't mean body triangle.
No,
as in
you
like,
mean, yeah, I know.
I mean, he's scorpion these guys where he has a body triangle. He rolls them belly down.
Yep.
And we all know, maybe not everyone, if you're in a body triangle, never go flat belly down because your spine is in a position that you're going to like be broken in half like it's Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
Well, obviously these guys, especially the guy that he beat in the finals, Pimentel, he's won the last 2 years. He's gotten first. So the guy's an absolute killer. Hinger, so Nikita noticed this because he had a better perspective being there. He was Matt's side. That when, or maybe it was Boots, I can't remember. What was happening is he would lock the body triangle once he got their back. Now they're intelligently trying to roll to the side that the lock is on.
Yep.
And what they think was going on, from what it looked like live, was he was timing it to make them over rotate. So as soon as like he starts feeling them, he's getting ready and
he helped them,
really hipping into them, causing them to over rotate, go belly down, which is horrific, and then he just grabs them by the chin.
I just thinking about
their
this.
head off their body.
Awful.
I literally, they're on Twitter. There's a guy he was acting like Josh Hinger.
Yeah,
I swear I thought it was Josh Hinger. Because he just how he's posting it. Literally, I just responded to him. I go, if I ever see you at Master Worlds next year, please don't body triangle me. That's what I said to the guy.
Yeah.
And then he responded, he's like, I'm not Josh Hinger. I was like, well, stop posting like it.
Yeah.
But
How do you post like Josh Hinger?
he was posting every match, and then he posted the podium pictures, and it says, got double gold at Master Worlds. Okay. And then every match he's posting,
and you're like,
he's like swing single.
Were you like a weirdo troll? I mean, what are you doing?
Because every match he did a swing single.
Yeah,
he grabbed the collar and then
totally.
You saw that, right?
I love it.
And
maybe he like.
I thought, and it was a weird like
to be Josh.
crypto kind of name,
Yeah,
like where it was like 9B727.
Gosh, what?
So I didn't know, and then the guy responds, he's like, "Dude, I'm not Josh Hinger."
Well, then you're a weirdo.
I was like, well, if you know him, tell him. So, but I see him, literally the last three guys, he body triangle finishes, belly down. And I was like, I don't know if I can recover from that. That looks so bad.
No, it's awful.
And he's in my division. That's
I know. It's the first thing I thought too.
I'll turn into the machinist and go down a weight division. I would rather.
I think you'd be going down several weight divisions at that point.
I would rather go full Pedro from Real World and go like I'm an AIDS patient. And
that's nice, Bill.
It's not too soon. It's been like 25 years. And like be completely anorexic rather than get body triangle by that man.
Yeah, I don't want any part of it.
Gosh, just miserable.
Well, we were talking about this today too. You thought, it's one thing to be a brown belt and at that time I was 52-year-old brown belt. It's another thing to be a 53-year-old black belt. Masters 5, dude. You show up at work. I know.
Yeah.
So did I.
Master 5.
Master
middle.
5 middle. Yeah. It ain't pretty.
He's like 9-time. I forgot the name of the guy.
Yeah. But there's
I think he's like the lead guy at Checkmat or something.
So there's guys like that, right? There's been black belts.
Roberto Traver, and I think he got second.
Black belts for like 25 years.
Easy.
Yeah.
Right around the corner, there's a coral belt.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I got mine last year.
Yeah, I know, right? So that we were talking about what a huge, because someone has asked me, we had a local competition that we had a really good showing at our team. I think we got first place as a team.
Yeah,
for adults,
adult team. Yeah.
But some really good matches. Anyway, someone was like, "Hey, man, you got to compete," and I was like, "Yeah, I would like to." Yeah. And I was thinking about what my groups look like
locally, maybe
locally.
As soon as you get to those majors, it's
it's a slaughter fest, man. But anyway, it was kind of cool just to. That kind of puts things in perspective. There's black belts and there's black belts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And having like pro guys like Hinger in there and like the Meow brothers.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, so it's a whole, now, they're all in masters, you know.
JT Torres.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which when I heard JT Torres lost in the finals, I was like,
to who?
And then I see who and I'm like, it's another freaking pro.
Yeah.
Michael Lira Jr.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get away from me, dude.
I know, dude.
That's like a world's like semifinals matchup.
I know.
6 years ago.
It's funny though.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a kind of a interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and before we get off competition, congrats to all our folks went out. We had a couple first time competitors and did really well, and I was really proud of them also.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet to see some of the people in their first comps and feeling the nerves and just
good performances too.
Yeah.
There's some good ones out there too. So
yeah. So yeah, that's the Grand Prix. Victor Hugo, he submits his side, gets to the finals against Marigal, and then you have that tremendous match there.
Yep.
Tynan Dalpra, I mean, love Jan, but Tynan Jan Pikapau is one of the most dynamic passers and jiu-jitsu players in the game. And what I mean by that is like he'll just throw caution to the wind. And Tynan just locked him up into close guard immediately and to take that away from him.
Yep.
And put him in a triangle in a minute, and just tremendous. Just so smart and technical. Kolobate.
I did. I actually did watch that one.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I did. I watched the Kolobate one too.
The guy he was going against is tough as nails, but Cole was just putting on a
both of them. It was early, one of their first black belt competitions for both of them, wasn't it?
Yep.
That's right. The guy's name was Doodoo, and we thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And one guy was calling him Doodoo, and Carrie and I were making a joke out of that. We were like,
weird.
So is it Doodoo or Doodoo?
Or Doodoo.
Or then, of course, Carrie says, just call him Deuce.
Yeah.
Just how Carrie goes.
Call him. Yeah, never mind. But yeah, that was a good match.
It was excellent, yeah.
In my opinion, if you're going to go back and watch just a handful, there is a match between Jackson Nagai and I don't remember his first name, but his last name is Chung, Cheung. Chung was a last minute, like literally 1 day notice stand-in for Jonathan Alves, which thank you, whoever made that happen. Because Jonathan Alves, fantastic technician, but he is, what's a sleeping pill? What is one of those, Zoloft?
No.
What's his sleeping pill?
Yeah, there's Ambien.
Ambien.
Yeah.
His nickname's Ambien. Jonathan Ambien Alves. Got a good ring to it.
Okay.
One of the best 50-50 players in the world, world champion, tremendous technique, but holy smokes, he'll put you to sleep. I think he got hurt maybe in the last minute or something.
So the replacement, I'm assuming, was the opposite.
Was Chung. And it was interesting because he's actually a very dynamic guard player that just newer black belt, And Jackson Nagai is a crazy good guard player. He lost in the finals at Worlds to Jonathan Alves. So it was kind of a rematch is what they were billing. Holy smokeronis. These guys did not pull guard. And they just went caution to the wind and it was such a good match.
So if you're basically someone hasn't watched jiu-jitsu before, you'd be like, hey, watch this.
Yeah, this is how fun it can be.
Cool.
And if you're just kind of like wondering what matches to watch, like you don't want to watch the whole tournament, you don't want to watch all the...
Well, you can't really. And, it takes about 5 minutes to search for a match. So, I think 30 minutes, you probably could watch 2 matches.
Right.
So that's a good one to
This is going to be
time.
a good one.
Okay.
Yes, if you can find it. Yeah, so that and then I would say probably the finals is a very technical match to watch as well. And then so that's pretty much that. There was a ladies match. I did not catch it because I think I was making food.
As you should have been during the ladies match.
Yes, she
get up
told
there
me
and
to get in the kitchen.
you should have. Yeah, good.
She watched it, but
Good.
Yeah.
I did. I was busy baking.
Sounds good.
So that's the IBJJF Grand Prix. Really cool. We had some of our own competitors down there, so congrats to them for making the trip. Nikita pussed out and didn't compete, unfortunately. But we'll just move on. We actually have some questions.
Nice. Nice segue. I like that.
First, we have a sleep question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. So we have someone that them and their wife, and I'm just going to read the question.
Yep.
My wife and I have started taking morning cold showers over the summer, and we really like the effect. We both have sleep problems, and I think it's helping with our circadian rhythm.
Yep.
However, lately I've been waking up after about 5 hours and not being able to get back to sleep from whatever time they go to sleep. I was wondering if anyone else has had this reaction or noticed this, or if it's more likely to be a non-correlated personal sleep issue. Thanks, and your podcast is interesting.
So that's a really good question. So it absolutely cold in the morning. That's why we've talked about this before during sleep, right? Mm-hmm. Where the whole idea, circadian rhythm in general is what we call entrained. In other words, environmental cues can kind of keep it going the way it should. The one of the most powerful ones is light. We've talked about many times versus, blue light versus the other spectrum light and how important that is for setting the rhythm. But the other one that's often overlooked is temperature. And we have our rhythm of temperature is that as we go to sleep at night, our body temperature will steadily fall. And so reaching its lowest point in the pre-dawn hours, okay? And then as we get a morning cortisol surge, our body temperature starts coming up naturally and that's what we have a little higher waking temperature. Mm-hmm. So the idea between of a hot bath or hot shower at night basically gives you a heat stimulus, which then your body vasodilates. The vessels get dilated to try to release heat. It almost jump starts a cooling mechanism, if you can think about that.
Okay.
And so then that cooling will then continue to take place. So that hot at night gives us a stimulus to cool. And then that just kind of helps accelerate or, drive our natural cooling that we should be doing anyway. Where in the morning, a cold stimulus can do the same thing the other way, where it can stimulate, okay, we got to warm ourselves now, right? So we get a cold stimulus in the morning. So it helps bookend our day and helps really set the brain for circadian, the circadian rhythm. And that sleep is controlled primarily by that. It's very interesting. So I would have to ask a follow-up question. In other words, how long after you've been doing the cold in the morning have you noticed this kind of sleep pattern start to develop?
Was it right 5-hour thing?
Yeah. Was it right away or what? Because it could be part of it. It certainly could be where he's actually setting the rhythm and your body might be just adjusting right now and anticipating awaking.
Would you ask, how do you feel?
Yeah, for sure. He may be getting better sleep, in
a 5-hour block.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very interesting. I would just kind of keep track of that and see how it goes.
Yeah.
You can support that a little more, if you're waking up with like some L-theanine or something similar like that to maybe keep the nervous system calmed down a little bit at night. But it may...
Taking L-theanine before bed.
Before bed. So it may very well be due to the initiation of this. I would kind of stick with it as long as it's not too disruptive right now and see if you start to regulate or the body adjust.
I see.
But that's a good thing. And the cold water immersion in the morning has so many good benefits psychologically, inflammation-wise. It hits cold shock proteins. It does a lot of really good stuff physiologically. So it's definitely worth it, and see if it starts to regulate.
And we'll see what he said, because he's going to listen to this episode. And we'll see if he can give us a response.
Definitely stay away from things like melatonin. So if you are taking melatonin, you didn't say that you were, but if you've started doing something like that too, that can absolutely cause early waking. And we've talked about melatonin before. I'm not a fan of the supplement for normal sleep.
Yep.
That, taking it from the outside, what we call exogenous melatonin, can kind of disrupt our own internal melatonin signaling. And so, I'm not a fan of that. So, I would have to ask some more questions to see if they started doing anything else that could result in early awakening. I would write it out a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll write it out for another month or so and see if that doesn't just kind of normalize itself.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that. I think the more we can kind of ask about, the sleep questions, I think, we've talked about before how important that is.
Yeah.
For everything.
We will put, right here at the top a link to our sleep episode.
Yeah.
So you can.
We talked about that quite a bit. So
yeah, if you haven't listened to that, then that could be a good one. Just kind of maximize sleep and
totally.
We talk about getting better quality sleep, helping get to sleep.
And we talked about circadian rhythm with light entrainment, and we talked a bit about the temperature thing too.
Right. Yeah. So we go just a little bit deeper dive.
Yeah.
And just so people know, we intentionally do not tell Chris the questions because we like to have like an organic answer.
Yeah.
So
I don't like those canned answers because if you ask me something that I'll just tell you I don't know.
Yeah. Unless it's maybe something that is something that maybe could potentially something that Chris would need to know studies on the most recent literature.
Yeah.
Then Chris does a deep dive.
But
and
you can ask the question and bring it up, and I'll just say, "Hey, man, I got to look into it."
And then we'll look.
And then we'll come back. We'll come back to it. So just shoot them. Keep shooting questions.
So we have a joint question. So like elbows, knees,
not marijuana,
not the marijuana.
Okay.
So they say my joints crack randomly, like my shoulders, my elbows, my knees. Are there any supplements for that? Maybe I'm just not hydrated, or I don't know why they say this, or a low-fat diet. I don't know.
You're gonna get me all spun up on talking about low-fat diets. Give me a break.
Be mean about this guy. You know him.
So no, I don't want to be mean. If someone's asking a question, I'm not going to be mean to anybody.
He deserves that.
Look, I think that's a troll putting in the low-fat diet part of it. Is that a troll?
That part might be. Now that I'm thinking of who it is.
That's a troll.
Which you don't know who it is, but
So please don't do the low-fat diet thing.
Okay.
So first of all, how old are you?
Early 30s.
Okay. So if something is happening more often than not, joint popping and cracking, a lot of joint popping and stuff is usually due to muscular tension around the joint. Can be. Hydration, of course, status plays a lot in everything, but in general, people, most of us have experienced this. Like if we've done a lot of grip intensive stuff and then all of a sudden we're hanging out or not really moving our hands much, then all of a sudden we kind of crack our knuckles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when tension forms around a joint, and it feels good afterwards, right? Let's talk about the elbow. Perfect example. So a bunch of things cross the elbow joint. So we got to look at the muscles that cross a joint. In this case, the biceps is one of them. The triceps is one of them, right? Those just two off the top of my head, where they actually cross the elbow joint. So increased tension. It could be postural components holding something in a position for a long period of time. Working on computer. Exactly. Yeah. I see this a lot where people are, the weekend warrior type of I train, but then I have a desk job that I sit in at one place for a long time. You develop this kind of muscular tension that compresses joints. Right. And you can have a little joint compression. All the popping is a cavitation of the capsule. It's not pathologic or anything like that. If you're older or talking about, and you have advanced arthritis in different areas, you can have the osteophytes, the lower arthritic component kind of actually catching and popping and cracking, but not in a 31-year-old.
Okay.
It's usually muscular tension, little joint cavitation. When you get adjusted, quote unquote, that's cavitation of the joint. It's not anything like, you're not putting anything back in place or anything like that, which is...
Now, I think this did start more recently.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
New workout programs. God, there's so many. But typically what I've seen is a lot of static positioning where I'm in one place for a long time, right? And developing even some muscle imbalances, right? Where I have one side overly shortened and one is the other part of the muscles for the other joint.
They have had some hip issues recently.
Yeah. Right. So, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Okay.
Now, if you have a family history of arthritic kind of joints, like, degenerative joints,
sure.
Obviously things like collagen.
Well, if let's say that was the case, would they have pain that would come with the cracking and stuff like that?
You just generally have painful joints in general. But here's the thing though. There are people, like I can take x-rays out, let's just say on necks. Let's take 50 or 60-year-old men. I can take 100 people, 60 years old, x-ray their necks, and almost all of them are going to have a substantial amount of degenerative changes in their spine. That's part of being on the planet under gravity for 60 years. But there's no correlation between degenerative changes and pain. And this is often, it's one of my biggest pet peeves as a doc, where I get, and I'm not trying to talk crap. I mean, people like a walk-in clinic doc or someone like an urgent care doc or someone.
Those quacks.
They're not. They have a specific job to do to make sure nothing bad's going on, right?
Yeah.
But they'll say things to people like, "Oh, your neck pain. Oh, look here, you have arthritis in your neck." It's like it's nonsense. There is a point where the arthritic component can actually narrow the foramen where the nerves come out of the neck so much that it can predispose to problems. But there's no correlation between degenerative change and spinal pain. Okay, now when it gets extreme, of course. If you have degenerative changes in a hip where you have no cartilage left, and they call it the bone on bone, right? Where that can be extremely painful. But just use my wife as an example, where that's not always the case either, where she had no problems with her hips for years, and then had one instance in medical school, and this is her second career. So people that don't know, she went to medical school late in life in her mid 40s. Anyway, she was doing jogging, and had a weird kind of slip on a trail, kind of cranked her hip backwards. And then for the next 18 months had horrific hip pain. Well, we finally got some imaging done, and she actually had pretty much bone on bone in that hip. But that had been there for a long time without really causing her many problems. It's only when she had that injury, we call it an exacerbation of underlying arthritis, where it became inflammatory at that point. My point is, it's not straightforward. It doesn't mean just because you have degenerative joint doesn't mean you're going to have pain. Okay, and vice versa.
That little injury of her slipping and the joint kind of getting stretched or whatever. What is it that caused
It's such a good question. I think there's what happened inside the joint. People will argue that you had a forceful compaction injury, bone to bone, setting up an inflammatory response, which then made things very, very painful. And then
there was already the pre-existing
stuff.
Really feel.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it just got the kindling. Boom.
And they call that an exacerbation of an underlying arthritic, a symptomatic exacerbation. Okay. But again, that's what, the take home message to this is, if you go to the doctor and they say, "Oh yeah," and I've had people come into my office and say, "Oh well, yeah, my shoulder hurts because the doctor said I have arthritis," and I look at the X-rays, minimal degenerative change, nothing there. It's a way to just say, "Oh, this is what's wrong," to get you out of the office, right?
15 minutes,
which is not wasn't the problem, right? So just keep that in mind, that there's no correlation between that, especially mild to moderate degenerative change and joint pain. Okay. But that being said, you can have inflammatory things going on, overuse jiu-jitsu, and then you sit at a desk job all day. Joints don't like to be isolated and immobilized.
Or if maybe you were training a decent amount.
Yep.
You would work on, you're a coder or something like that. So you're in front of a computer for long periods, and then you got a normal training schedule, and then maybe an injury happens, so you can't train.
Yep.
You're still going to work, still doing that whole thing, sitting in improper ways, as most of us do. Especially work at home people. We start out sitting correctly, and then we slowly morph into this.
Oh, for sure. It's so important not only to have your ergonomics set up correctly at home, really important, but also to take these micro breaks where you get up and walk around. You got to. And it's hard when you're task oriented and you're trying to get something done.
So that could be another element that would cause this kind of crackling and stuff like that, is just a change in workout from maybe not starting to work out more, but starting to work out less because of some sort of injury you had. And then,
anything's possible, but it typically, like anytime I see someone with like patellofemoral syndrome, where the kneecap moves, there's pain under the kneecap. It's almost always, every time I poke on them, they usually have their quadriceps are crazy tight, kind of jamming the patella down into the trochlear groove there. And it's super painful for them. And what's interesting is
But you would never think it's a quad thing.
No, but in that condition, what the most common cause of pain is prolonged sitting or driving.
Gotcha.
Right? Not necessarily movement. So, yeah. So if I would, that question basically, frequent movement breaks, definitely get into frequent stretching,
Any supplements, fish oil we always hear about.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I mean, we talked about the systemic enzymes. If you guys go back and listen to that episode, that seems to be pretty darn effective. It has with my own my finger joints. It's been really helpful. Systemic enzymes, which you can go back and listen to that episode. I like collagen just in general as I'm aging, so I can get the building blocks for any repair I need to make as far as tendons and stuff.
Certain kind of collagen.
Yeah, there's been arguments on what type 1, type 2. Honestly,
Liv, what's the stuff that
I use Vital Nutrients collagen.
Okay.
There's a bunch of them that are good. They're probably all made in the same place.
Right.
I use a powder in my shake
Same.
every morning.
I do it in the coffee. What's the one that?
It's more of like a marine collagen.
Yeah,
That
type 2, right?
Okay.
But I don't think it really matters because you're just giving one of the characteristics of a collagen is an amino acid called proline. Collagen's high in proline. You're basically giving your body some building blocks to work with, right? And so,
I mean, my arm I had an arm injury.
you're talking about the one you faked?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Was that a month ago? Maybe
A little more than that.
6 weeks, something. And I mean, I full range of motion now. Like there's just a slight pain at end range and stuff. But I really ramped up the collagen among other things. But
I think that, and make sure if you're taking collagen, make sure it has a little vitamin C in there too. Vitamin C is a cofactor for collagen, for making collagen in the body. So it's a requirement for that. The biggest ones, I believe, I'm pulling biochemistry from the top of my head. Lysine and proline, I think, are the big components that are very characteristic and high amounts in collagen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yep.
On to the next, which is lower back.
Holy cow, that's a whole episode, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, let me hear it.
So the question says, what are some exercises / supplements to take to prevent pulling type of injuries, specifically for the lower back?
Pulling meaning flexion injuries, like a deadlift.
I assume. That's what I'm assuming. It's like it's not even sore sometimes. Just locks up on passing attempts. So I assume he's like bent over.
Yep.
Like in a standing passing. It feels like he's tried to deadlift 400 pounds. So I assume he's been bent over at the hip. His chest is perpendicular with the ground.
Yep.
He's in that position for who knows how long. And then it's locked up.
So first of all, if any doctor or any healthcare provider in general says these are the stretches you need to do, or especially says you need to take some supplements for this, go somewhere else. Back pain is not a homogeneous entity. In other words, it's not one thing. Okay. There are many causes of it that you actually have to have a good evaluation with someone that knows what they're doing. I haven't been doing that. I have a special interest in low back pain.
Is that like a PT would
a good, but this is a problem. It's not profession oriented. There are some physical therapists that are doing cookie cutter nonsense, like all back pain gets these exercises. There are some phenomenal physical therapists that really have a good evaluation. Like, okay, what do we think? First of all, what was the mechanism of injury? When I have a patient come in with a back injury, which I see every day, the first thing I say is, let's recreate how you did it. Okay, as best possible. That gives me so much information because a flexion injury, which is what I'm hearing here. I'm automatically thinking different things than I would be like if someone was trying to lift something heavy over their head and they bent backwards. Okay, or I was just going to plug in a light socket, and my back locked up, right? And then I'd have to ask all this history, like what are your previous things? Flexion in general, flexion injuries, I automatically, and pull proven otherwise, make sure there's not a disc injury. Okay. Flexion injuries are the most common cause of disc things. And we talked about that's why I don't like sit-ups, right? Amongst other things.
I think we talked about that.
We did in the last couple episodes ago. Yeah. But if the pain stays locally in the low back, it's usually a good sign. Even if it's terrible pain, it's usually a good sign if it stays there. If it routinely is traveling down the legs, okay, very distinctly, not just periodically, but, all the time, I'm definitely worrying about like a posterior posterolateral disc herniation that may be impinging a nerve root at that point. So giving someone an exercise to do just because you have back pain, could make that, it could be the absolute wrong exercise to give them, right? Make it worse, right? And so if this is a chronic thing, finding someone that can actually evaluate you and kind of give you something to get you going in the right direction. And, oh, by the way, make sure you don't have any of the red flag symptoms like, do I have motor weakness in my foot? Do I have a loss of reflex, or you know what I mean?
Tingling and
the tingling.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, that'd be for the neck. Yeah. But for the legs especially. But what it sounds like is a flexion thing. And, I'd have to know a lot more about you. There's probably some muscle imbalances. There probably might be a posterior disc irritation. It doesn't even have to be herniated. You could have pressurized the back of it. So we really should do a whole episode on this.
What do you think the chances are he's sitting on the toilet too long looking at memes and his legs are just going dead?
Yeah, but that's a flexion position too. It ain't good. Flexion injuries typically hurt worse when people are in long car rides or they're sitting for a long time. They're bent over and whether they're sitting on the toilet or not.
So he could.
So flexion injuries like that so there are some exercises that could be appropriate, but again, I would have to evaluate
Squatty potty.
That's just good for good
bowel
movements.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's some, for some people with flexion, kind of more like a flexion posterior disc type thing that doesn't have a lot of pain, at least down past the knees. I've trained at some of these courses called mechanical diagnosis and therapy, otherwise known as McKinsey courses, to talk about finding their directional preference. And so a flexion injury, you'd put someone into extension. But not always. Again, these are caveats, and that's why there's a danger in people giving cookie cutter exercises for low back pain. I will say this. In general, if you want to prevent back pain, make sure you have very mobile and strong hips. Very important. Immobile hips are the most common cause of predisposition for back problems because the lumbar spine is not meant to be a mobile structure. The thoracic spine, your upper spine, is typically supposed to be more mobile. The lumbar spine is supposed to be more of a stability type of structure. And those hips, those ball and socket joints, should be the ones that are very, very mobile to allow for. Because if you don't have mobile hips, especially, how we always talk about external and internal rotation, whatever loss of mobility you have in your hips during movement has to be making up for in the lumbar spine, right? And you're making the lumbar spine try to move and be mobile when it's
not meant to be.
It's not supposed to be like that. And so I will say that is a good general statement we could make.
Okay. So what would you recommend to get practice, get some mobility in the hips?
It depends on what their problem is. So I've had to evaluate a couple of guys in our gym and a couple of them had completely different problems. And I gave them completely different things. One person had very weak hip flexors, right? The other person had horrible hip external rotation, right? So the other people have the gluteal activation is huge. If you want to look at a great book to talk about this, Dr. Brett Contreras, known as the glute guy. He has a great book called
The Ass Man.
Yeah, he does PhD. I forgot what it's in some kind of exercise related field. I forget what it was, but really, really brilliant at showing how important gluteal activation is for stabilization of the lumbar spine. We would need some visual things to show this, but there is a continuity in fascia between, let's say, the right glute and the left side of the low back all the way up to the left lat and vice versa. And it forms this kind of natural back belt called the thoracolumbar fascia. And when the glutes are active, it forms this natural stabilization structure. When they're not, you're basically, and they're the strongest muscle in the body for hip extension. So people that have poor glute activation usually have overactive hamstrings. They're the people that are pulling their hamstrings all the time because they're making their hamstrings do the primary hip extension job the glutes are doing. And they also don't have this natural stabilization. Almost think of like an X, a cross pattern. If you want to look something up online, look up gluteal and thoracolumbar fascia, and you can see a visualization of that. So having very active and strong glutes are really important for low back pain too. Okay, along with hip. I think for prevention, glute strengthening and hip mobility are really, really important.
Identify where your deficiency is in your hip.
But if you're coming to me saying, I have this back pain, I need to know some exercises, I need to evaluate you. And if anybody's not doing that and you're just taking exercises, you could be making it worse.
Okay.
So if you're around our gym, if you're asking questions from our gym or know how to find me, I'll be happy to look at you.
Now, part of that question was supplement as well.
No. No. Any supplement's not going to do a darn thing.
Red meat, carnivore diet.
No, I mean, if you have systemic inflammation, obviously we're going to have, you have increased pain in general, but it's not going to do anything for your back.
Yeah. He's probably eating a lot of sugar, maybe. I could do it.
I'm just speculating. Yeah. But it's not going to cause specifically back pain.
Okay.
Unless you're having some kidney problems that are, or things that you think are back pain and are maybe a kidney stone or something like that goes along the same kind of area. So,
okay.
Anyway.
Liv, you got anything?
Nope.
Well, guys, quick episode kind of, for at least for us.
I don't know about that. I think it's pretty
Was
long.
it? I thought it was like 45 minutes. No?
About
Maybe
50, 55.
Send a comment.
Yep.
Like, subscribe. If you want us to talk about anything, you got a question, you have lower back pain, or maybe you got erectile dysfunction, let us know.
Yeah. And again, low back pain.
Yeah.
It's not all created equal.
Right. And if you do ask a question about some of these things, you can tell how Chris is answering. More specifics, more details.
What makes it worse? What makes it better? I'm not giving you medical advice, but I'm just saying what I think.
Chat GPT. So the guy with the sleep, give us a little bit more details. That would be great. Also, keep going for the next month. Let us know how that goes. Same with the cracky joints. You pretty much got what you need, but lower back, if you have any more info on your hips, let us know. See you next time.